Welcome to Catholic Education Matters, the podcast that celebrates the beauty of Catholic education, highlighting excellence in academics, athletics, and the transformative power of faith. Join us as we share the stories of those making a lasting impact on Catholic education. Let's begin. Good day, everyone, and welcome to Catholic Education Matters. So glad to have you all here today, and I'm so glad to have with us today as our guest, Mr. Andy Szocs. Andy, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so great to have you here today. I'm going to tell, Andy's an incredible philanthropist, an incredible business person, and I'll say this on the record, he's one of my favorite people. I've had the pleasure of getting to know him over the last while, and it's been a great journey already. And Andy, I've got to say, from the people that do know you, that I've met over the last year or two, great things are said about you. They call you enthusiastic, creative, loyal, strategic, very a caring philanthropist. So, would you tend to agree with all these descriptions of yourself?
Well, Troy, you're very kind, and I appreciate that. As long as you don't have a list of the things I'm not, okay? Because there are a few things I'm still working on, but I would like to say that it is an absolute delight to be here. I just enjoy sharing what I have because I know what I have has been given to me by God, and I want to make a difference that is so important to me that I give back to everybody, the church, charities, everything, and improve their lives.
Wow, that's great, and you have from your history, from what the bit of research that I've done on you over the last while, just getting to know you. You're a champion. You are an absolute champion, and so many of us need to emulate you in the things that you do.
It's a win-win situation, let me tell you. Yes. You see people grow when you talk to them and you're influencing them, and then inside, I just want to do more. It's an incredible. Love it.
So can you tell us a little bit about your background? First of all, I know you're an engineer by trade.
That's
and
right.
You also you founded a company called Norpac.
That's right.
Back in the day, which still exists today.
Yes.
But you've since sold it off to the employees that you had at the time.
Let me jump in here and say, number one, I grew up in Flin Flon, Manitoba, way up north, 600 miles north of Winnipeg.
Oh, wow.
And it was in the boondocks, and that's where my parents went as Hungarian immigrants. And in those days, you basically didn't pick where you wanted to go. They told you if you wanted to come to Canada, that's where you would have to. My father was working in the mine there. Mm-hmm. I grew up there and birthed Catholic, and it was all about the kids. Okay, yeah. What are we going to do with these kids? Raise these kids because they are our future. And I cannot overemphasize the wonderful attitude that those immigrants had.
And you had siblings too, right? Sorry to interrupt.
I had siblings. Yeah. I had a brother and a sister, younger brother, younger sister.
Okay.
So, my mother was so delighted with me, I guess, and said, I need a couple more. Anyway, I paid my way through university. I graduated in engineering. Frankly, I wasn't a very good engineer, but I figured out pretty quick that, I had people skills and I could put 4 or 5 words together, and most engineers could only put 2. And so that would put me at an advantage. I graduated. I got a job not in sales, but then I looked for a job in sales, and I joined a company called Fisher Controls, mm-hmm. and I grew fast in that. I loved it. It was great people. And again, this whole thing of sharing, being around people that are performers, and that's the way to elevate your game.
Wow, that's amazing. So when did Norpac come in?
No, I was there for 7 or 8 years, and what they do is they're a big company. Today they're called Emerson, and they're in the billions and billions of dollars now, but they distributed their product through representatives, okay, but that were exclusive. And after 7 or 8 years, the people that are exceptional, they give them the opportunity to go out and run their own business completely separate from Fisher, Emerson. And then what you do is you go out there and represent them. And frankly, the more you sell, the more you make, and it's truly a free enterprise system.
Right.
And so I was blessed to be able to take all those tools I learned at the company, a lot of great ones, and then I hired people, and frankly, I did extremely well, but also my people did well. I had a philosophy of profit sharing, hiring them right, train them, and get out of their way was my philosophy.
And you've expressed before that you ran a really tight ship.
Yes, that's true. That's the only way it can work. You know, you have to have people with the same type of attitude. And I used to say that, I was not an easy guy to work for if you did not perform, because chances are you were in the wrong field. And so I quickly made up my mind as to who would be joining my company. It would be the performers, and make a fantastic career for both of us. And so it was like heaven when we got going, and everybody performed. It was totally on performance, okay? Loyalty, caring, all those other things entered into the equation, but we had to have a bottom line, and the more we sold, the more everybody was happy, and that's how I built up my net worth.
Wow, that's great. So you had NORPAC. You were the sole principal of the company.
Yes.
And you were that until...
till probably almost about 5 years before I retired. I realized I was going to retire.
Yep.
I retired at the age of 60 in 1972. And I created a partial type ownership program, and then eventually I sold the company to all the employees.
Great.
And incidentally, that's 25 years later. I retired in the year 2000. It's hard to believe I've been out for 25 years. Yeah. And so those employees bought the company and basically are thriving today.
That is awesome. How many employees would have bought the company?
When I left, Troy, we had about 50 employees. We had 2 offices, one in Vancouver and then the other one in Prince George.
Right. And all 50 ended up with some form of ownership?
You had to be there for a period of 3 years.
Yep.
And then once you got into it, yes, and the ownership was distributed on the role and responsibilities that you had with the company.
Yeah, wow. So there was hierarchy, I would imagine. Different people got different kind of shares.
Absolutely.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes great sense.
I'd like to stop just for 1 second and give you some, if I would say the take-homes that I would like to share with everybody else, is that, number one, people are your number one asset. Yeah. There is no question that is your most valuable asset, and they come first. Once you do that, and then you get into, you hire the best, you look very, very, and we would have 30-hour interviews talking to almost everybody in the company so that they would get a full view of what this company was about. What was it like to work for Andy Szocs, okay?
Yeah.
And then we would hire them. The other thing that we did is we concentrated, this is a strategy, we concentrated on our performers, not on the people that were non-performers. Because most companies, and I was trained this way, grew up in the corporate world, that basically let's try to raise the platform for the lower performers. My philosophy got turned around with a consultant we hired. And he told me that, no, spend your time with the performers and you'd be absolutely amazed at what happens with the performers. They just raise their bar way up high. And of course, it's a lot more fun.
It's kind of that 80-20 rule, I suppose.
Yeah.
Where, if you spend 80% of your time with 20% of your key performers,
absolutely,
you're gonna blow up.
And I was doing it the other way around and getting frustrated. So it's a win-win philosophy. A couple of other things I might add was that I always encourage people to have a mentor. In my life, I had the 3 key mentors. And anybody that's going to watch this podcast, I would say, especially the youth, get a mentor. Yeah. They're out there, and trust them. And it's just not your parents.
Yeah.
Because your parents give you excellent feedback and guidance, but it's always nice to have an external view. And so I encourage anybody to get.
Can we ask who your 3 mentors were?
Yeah, one was a guy that hired me. Was Don Estel. He was the general manager, and he was one of my mentors. Another was a very religious fellow called George Hardy, who was in Vancouver, non-Catholic, but he was a devout Christian, and quite the person, and he influenced my faith. And frankly, I was part-time Catholic for maybe quite a bit of my life when I was searching for business success, etc. And I think I had this agreement with God that I would take a part-time job or whatever, or get away for a little bit, give me some time to straighten this thing out. And I did do that, and that's when I ended up with finding out that God had rewarded me substantially more than I ever thought. And now it was time to do something different.
Yeah. And your 3rd mentor? Just so that, because
my third mentor was George Hardy, a guy by the name of Ben Rector, who was the vice president of sales, who was just the greatest salesman I could think of, outgoing, dynamic, and I got some of that stuff rubbed off on me too.
So you had sort of like a business leader, and then you had kind of a spiritual leader.
Yeah.
And then you had a sales leader. Yeah. That you
and
called a mentor.
And I really, they made a big difference in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. We all need that. We all need that, definitely.
Yeah.
And I had, getting back to saying hiring great people, what a good friend of mine who has a very large, successful company, and asking him, would he credits his success to, and he says, well, the best thing I can do as a leader, he says, is I try to hire people that are much smarter than me. And
I did that a lot.
Yeah, and that, and it's true. It's very true.
Well, we all have specialties. You're good at something and this and this, and the ability to recognize that you're not always good at everything. Yeah. Well, that's where those other people come into play. And
recognizing that, it becomes your strength.
Yes.
Like, I'm not good at this, so I need to plug that gap with somebody that's very qualified.
And it's strategic. You really have to measure it, see it. And that's another thing. Measurement became a very important part in our company. Right. If it moved, we measured it.
Right.
And things like we would measure how quickly did we get back to the customer? How many times did we screw up? Okay. How many complaints? We would measure complaints. We measured the amount of recognition we gave to each other internally.
Wow.
And we had all these measurements that were developed within the company by hiring a consultant. We probably had about 15 measurements that were spread throughout the company, and everybody knew about them. And we took pride in those measurements, and we actually graphed them in gold-framed graphs throughout the company. And so everybody was fully aware that we were doing all this measurement. And one of the key ones was recognition. Okay, we were a company that recognized our employees just to the nth degree.
I read a study long ago that said your employees will work harder for recognition than they will for money. And isn't that to know that they're appreciated, to know that they are like truly appreciated, not by just saying, hey, great job, Andy, and then move on. No, it's actually sitting down with them and truly recognizing them, and then recognizing them in front of the whole organization.
And the key is to that is accept that strategy and then measure it. Yeah. You won't, that's the accountability factor. And I'll give you an example. we had a corny little thing called, recognizing each other. And so this came out of our study group, is that we put a huge basket of candies, chocolate bars, etc., in the center of the office, and everybody saw them. And in there was a form that you would fill out, and giving recognition to somebody that worked in the company that helped you out. So this form was, about, let's say, and you filled it out quickly, and it said, I, Joe Smith, would like to recognize Tom Brown for the things they did. It could be helping me out with a customer, giving me some guidance, doing this, et cetera, et cetera. And then what you'd do is you'd take that form, and this was intercompany. You would take that form and go over and grab what you thought was his treat or hers and give it to them and look them in the eye and say, I really appreciate.
Wow.
And it sounds corny.
No.
As a matter of fact, I tell you what, one of our burly engineers says, that'll be the day I'm going to be handing out chocolate bars. And the beauty of that story is that when he got his first chocolate bar from one of the secretarial administrative person, he almost cried.
Wow.
It shows you the depth. And then we measured those. We passed out in a year, we averaged 60 chocolate bars a month with the certificates. We measured them, and this was known throughout the whole company. So I'm telling you about it was strategic. I could go on and on about other things, but
that is gold. That is absolutely golden.
And people saw it, and the other one we had was called SPR, spontaneous recognition. Okay, and this was when I would be able to recognize anybody. For something, okay? And I remember one time through a company, we had a lot of company meetings. I stepped up our meetings by a bunch. Once the consultant told me about all these things, I said, okay, let's implement that. So we basically had all this recognition. So for a spontaneous one, I would pick out somebody and say, I'm sending he and his wife to Australia. Now, that's a pretty thing. And now a lot of people would say, well, that's not fair because why did you pick him? Well, I picked him because it was very obvious, not only to me, but if I put a survey out in the company, that person would have been the person. But things like that was just, and I'd take all the secretaries out. Administrative people. I use the word secretaries because that's old fashioned.
That's old school. Love it though. We know what you mean.
Shows you my age, okay? But the admin people, take them out for lunch. That's just We did all sorts of things to keep that recognition. I'm going to come back to that because I do that now in my fundraising and my donor recognition.
All right, that's great. Wow. So you had this successful company. And you passed it on to your employees, which is hugely noble. You didn't just sell it out to somebody else coming in and just taking over the company, and then you just brush your hands and move on and say sink or swim. You actually gave it back. Well, gave it back. You sold it back to those who had invested all of their time and energy into it, which is hugely noble and the right thing to do. And now, so you're financially set, and you're starting a new chapter in your life, let's call it, for lack of a better expression. And where did that take you? You had spiritual, you said you were kind of a part-time Catholic at the time, and then things evolved. Where did that go?
Well, that's interesting because, when I said I was going to retire, the reason I retired so early is I said, there's more to life than just putting trophies on the shelf. And I had plenty, okay? I had more than I needed for money. And I came to the realization. And so I don't know. I think the Holy Spirit just said something. I think it's time to move on. So I moved on. And the first thing that came was there was a sad suicide, a depression right across the fairway up at in Nicholas on the golf course there. And
so this is a neighbor of yours in Whistler.
And they his son committed suicide very unexpectedly. 16-year-old kid, had all the toolbox, etc. And they got the call that your son has committed suicide, and they didn't know what to do. Yeah. And so they reached out to me, and I'm about 6 months into retirement. My wife and I were doing a lot of traveling, and I just said, you know what? Nobody's doing much about mental health. This is 25 years ago. Yeah. And I said, you know what? I love the leverage. Every pound of effort I put into this, I would get big returns because people were covered in heart and cancer, all these other things, but nobody was doing mental health. So I joined that organization. I became the strategist and the visionary and everything like this. And we grew, it's called the Kelty Patrick Dennehy Foundation. And we became probably the most prominent private charity in mental health in BC. And so we raised big bucks on that, not big bucks per se, but for that type of activity. Yep. And that's how I got started in charity. And along with that same thinking, all of a sudden, the Holy Spirit said to me, you've got all this money. Maybe you should start giving it away. And then I bumped into another person that said, why don't you try giving while living? And so I thought,
giving while living, as opposed to
leaving it in the will. Okay, you've seen the movies, okay, where everybody's in the families gathered one side, the lawyers on the other side. Here we would like to read Charlie's will, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Very somber and everything. It didn't seem to me like that was what I wanted to do. Yeah. I said, you know what? I am the patriarch of our family. I know all about how to give, etc. So I said, I'm going to start on a journey of giving substantially before, my life ends. I'm going to be able to set up a foundation and give a large percentage. It has two factors. Number one, I'm able to pick the charities I want, and not want, but are deserving. And I made my money through a lot of hard work and a lot of effort by a lot of people. And I wanted to give my money away to people that were going to be producing results. And frankly, all charities aren't exactly they got tremendous heart to them, tremendous, outstanding. But sometimes they just don't have the business acumen because frankly, a lot of people that are successful don't give time, they give money. Yeah. So I was one of these guys who gave them time, and that worked out extremely well. Wow.
So how do you look at a charity or another foundation? How do you analyze? Like you said, everybody's got their heart in the right place. Not everybody's got the business acumen when they're a part of a charitable organization. So how do you discern with what groups you'd want to?
Well, it's not as if you start analyzing, which I do. Matter of fact,
I know you do. I know you do.
I got a chart where I give right now to 35 charities. So the first grouping is, which area do you want to give into? Well, so I give into the Catholic Church is prominent. Yep. Mental health, hospitals. I do work in Africa. Okay. I do work with education, universities, scholarships, etc. So all of that, and then you start picking out the ones that are stars, and a lot of them could be very startup ones. Like one, for example, I'm involved with is Sanctuary, which is a faith-based solution to mental health, depression. It's in Vancouver. It's got 60 people or thereabouts, and what they do is they bring in faith as the answer to the issues like mental health and depression. Yeah. So it's not as complicated as when you start going to strategic and measuring it. It all falls into place. And I've got this chart that let me tell you, it's like a war room when you look at all the data, and the inputs I'm trying to balance out.
So you like to know how your gift is going to be utilized, right? I would imagine you want to make sure it's not getting wasted on crazy overhead or things like that. You want to know that it's actually being really effective. I'm assuming. Is that correct?
Oh yeah. I spend time with them, and most of the charities I put in. I just don't write a check. I probably get involved. I want to know. Let me see their annual reports. Let me talk to their leaders. And sometimes I choose charities that I see a lot of potential, a lot of need, but they need this business acumen. And frankly, I'm pretty proud that I was able to, basically really help some of those individuals, coach them, be a mentor.
Yeah.
That philosophy that I have inbred in me that, hey, this is really great stuff.
You're giving back in such a magnificent way, Andy, and thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'll give you, the thanks that you deserve right now, because so many people that I continue to meet, and when they hear about you, including Clay, the guy that's doing our filming and editing, and I was saying, how well do you know Andy before you got here today? And he's like, well, Andy basically put me through school. He paid for me to go to the Augustine Institute. There was 2, I think, that you had given scholarships for. He's got his master's in theology now, and he is so grateful. He's so grateful, and you just made a massive difference in somebody's life, which is incredible.
And Clay is, I had no, all I said was I'm going to sign up for 2 scholarships. Brett Powell's convinced me, and I said, this is a good deal.
Yeah.
And I'm so, and you need also the feedback. Clay then gave me the feedback.
Right.
This is what it did for my life.
Yeah.
I mean, it just feeds so beautifully on that.
It fills your heart, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. It's so beautiful to be able to do that and do it over and over again.
Yeah. Can we go back to you as a part-time Catholic, let's say, and your kind of your reversion to back to your faith in a deeper sense? And you had a mentor in that as well in the Catholic community. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey and from then into where you are right now?
Well, sure. I had a family. I had 2 boys. They're adopted, and we have 5 grandkids now. Proudly say, and so that kept me busy. We were at church regularly, but not full regularly. So then I always knew I was going to come back to the Catholic Church. I was an altar boy and everything. Yeah. But one of the things that held me back was at that time, it's not too unusual with people that in my age group or even less, that the Catholic Church was not exactly inviting the love message of God and the power and forgiveness and the total love. What I heard a lot of was, if you don't behave,
fear
God, God, etc. And that became a profound message. And so the love of God wasn't nearly attractive. And so I would say, and then being busy in my business and doing other things, charity wasn't there as much, concentrating on family. And then when I retired, I says, now I don't think I was really talking to the Holy Spirit, but he must have been there because, you know what? If I go to the Holy Land, I'll bet you that, there'll be a bolt, a thunderbolt, or lightning
some kind
bolt
of awakening.
And I go see the tomb of Jesus and all these things. So I looked around for 2 years to find the Holy Land trip. And I found a Holy Land trip through the Napa Institute, a fellow by the name of Tim Bush, and he was going with a high-end trip. It was and we had Tim Gray, who was quite renowned, he was our scholastic evangelist aboard, and we went to the Holy Land for 10 days, and it was unbelievable, and it started to reinforce the journey, and from then on, I just started getting more involved, and I'd have to give a lot of credit to the Americans. I'm blessed, very blessed. I winter home, I guess, in Maui, and I go there, and I've met a lot of Americans, and from my perspective, they are the most generous nation. It's unbelievable. Per population, they give more than any other countries, and sometimes we only see the wrong side of them, and we all have that type of thing.
Yep.
But they are very generous, very philanthropic, just tremendous people, and so they influenced me as well. So on that journey, I started adding that to my willingness to get involved with the mental health Kelty Foundation. All of that started, and then it just went on and on. I'm involved with in the U.S. I was on the board of Augustine Institute, which is very renowned media-based system out of St. Louis. Now they were in Denver. I'm on the Napa Institute, the Catholic University. I just have, and I meet a lot of very, very influential people, and not only influential, they do things, they get things accomplished. And hey, I just took you on one of those trips here, and about a couple of months ago, we all went to the Napa Institute, and you tell our audience what you thought of it.
The Napa Institute is a phenomenal organization, but a phenomenal event to attend, to go to a group. I don't know how many people were there. Was there 500 or 1,000? I don't know.
650.
650. There you go. And from all parts of the world, mostly North America, and I know you're really trying to champion getting a bigger part of Canada to go to the Napa Institute and to belong to it. But to have all of these like-minded Catholics in one place, and these are Catholics that are all championing different initiatives within the faith, within the church, and to have and to hear everybody's story, because there's so many times to meet and mingle, and it's encouraged to hear these different organizations, whether it's a university, a Catholic university or college, or whether it's a pro-life organization or an organization that is promoting a different scoring system outside of the SATs, that's more faith-based and not secular. For us, we're a newly established Catholic high school, and there was other Catholic high schools there being represented as well, and sharing ideas, and just to see it as a whole movement, a collection of a whole society that's moving in the right direction, is really uplifting and encouraging. That we're all going in the same direction. We're all of the faith, it was just incredible. And experiencing Mass there, several Masses there, because it's continuous,
like 100,
and the different speakers, of course, which is the major part of it. Having all the different speakers. Once again, I got to listen to many people that are a lot smarter than me. Which is great. That's not hard to do either, but it's great to be a part of that. So to go and experience the Napa, even if it's something that you can only do once in your lifetime, it's amazing to experience that. So, and I truly encourage, and Divine Renovation, seeing Father Malin there, and Father Justin, who's implementing Divine Renovation in his parish, having those different discussions. Tim Schmaltz, the sculptor, who was on our podcast already. And then he was there actually sculpting live with these incredible sculptures. Just incredible. It was absolutely incredible. So a wonderful organization, and I tip my hat to Tim Bush, who's a huge, not just a incredible business person, but he is also a huge philanthropist and a visionary. And so being able to have met him, granted very briefly, but, it was all very much a privilege. And thank you to you again for putting it together and encouraging all of us to go.
Troy, I'm so proud that I put all that effort, and I had fantastic help from Silveria, who works very hard. And just night and day for JP2. And so she helped me organize it. And we took, about 15 of us Canadians were there, and every one of them had enthusiastic, over-the-top feedback stories like you have. And so I must say that your mother came along, and that was just a shining light for me and for you and for her. It was just, it doesn't get any better than that. And so I've been 5 times, and I'm going to go for another 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's quite
awesome.
the place to be. Yeah.
My mom, quote unquote, I think she said, "This is the best trip I've been on in my life." And I was taken back to hear her say, my mom's traveled a lot. She's got, with my late father, they traveled a lot. And for her to say, and, to Medjugorje and to the Holy Land, like all over the place they've done. And for her to say that was actually really quite amazing.
Well, this is the time to say, your mom and I had some pretty nice talks, okay?
Yeah.
And she said one of the thrills of this was she was so proud that when she was there, she could see her son Troy in action and doing things and interfacing with all these people and his thirst for knowledge and the way he handled himself. So does it get any better than that?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's a trip of a lifetime for me too. I'll remember forever. So.
And speaking of JP2, I was out there last Sunday, and it was, oh my gosh, you've done an amazing job, you and the team that have put this thing together. I know it's been a journey for about 12 years, and it's starting to, but it is really starting to get together.
Yeah.
And so I would like to congratulate, and the things I saw there, I saw something that was, it seemed like you had thought of everything, the parking, the chapel, the flooring, the basketball, the field, everything. And it's just a huge project.
Yeah.
And that is so needed in our world today. And the culture that you're teaching them, this, let's say the anti-woke issues that are out there, and parents are worried and even scared of how they want a safe place. Well, congratulations. And I can say I'm proud to be a major donor to your facility there.
And thank you for that. Thank you. First of all, thanks for the kind words on that, Andy, because yes, it has been a long journey. Yeah. That project, it is of 12 years, and I've said it many a times that, you kind of start a project like this unknowingly for selfish reasons, because, I wanted a place for my kids to go to school, to high school, and I wanted to continue that legacy from Star of the Sea School, which is an incredible Catholic elementary school in South Surrey. And but that changes really quick with your right mindset. You realize that, there's going to be tens of thousands of kids that benefit and go through this. If we do this right and we keep our eyes on the horizon, because if it's easy to get muddled up in today's tasks, and it can almost be debilitating at times where you're just like, battle after battle, struggle after struggle after struggle. And there's no manual for a parent-led community on how to start a new Catholic high school. There's no manual. There's no learning. You can't go to, 15 different groups and say, hey, how did you guys do it? Or how did you guys do it? Or how did you? Because we set a whole new course on how this gets done. And of course, without the support of the Vancouver Archdiocese, we wouldn't have been able to do it. But we had to show the Archdiocese that we can do this. This is a different model. We can do it. And so we some of the things we changed, it was going to be a smaller school to begin with. And then we did the math, we did the numbers, we did the research, and we said, wait a minute, with the growth in Surrey, with 85,000 kids K-12 and 400 portables just in the secular high schools and the public high schools, we're going to be full so fast. And then we're going to be wishing we had built something bigger. So we went from a 300 to 500 size school originally that we were managing to now maximizing at 900 when we're full, just to try and keep our eyes on the horizon. So, we shifted, and then we thought, we wanted to try and keep costs down as low as possible, but then we also thought it's never going to be a less expensive time to build than right now, because 5 years from now, it's going to be that much more expensive. Another 5 years from now, it's going to be that much more expensive. So we also focused on architecture. We focused on something that not just now, but over the next 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years that this is going to be an incredible campus to go to because it'll be so well designed. So we spent a lot of time and effort on that, and that's more of the big vision. And then the number one thing that we realized in the midst of all of this is the challenge going forward is how do we keep our Catholic school Catholic? How do we keep that? Because there's going to be so many people from different organizations or different backgrounds, different faith backgrounds that are going to come in here. And we want the greater community to be part of our community. We don't want it to dilute our community. We want to be able to evangelize and turn disciples and scholars out of this school that can go out and make a difference in the world as Catholics, as of the faith, with the belief in Jesus Christ as the center of their faith going forward, and how the church will be able to support that. So we've kept it in the forefront. One of the ways we've done it is we've got an incredible board in our school. We have two boards. One is the foundation board and the other one is the society board. And the society is more oversees the educational side. And the society board is built of strong people of faith as well that are all like-minded to help see the vision of the school and our mission of the school. So that is extremely important going forward. It's our goal to not just be another Catholic school, but we want to be the Catholic school, not as a form of being the best. It's got nothing to do with that. It's all about setting the stage for other schools to be able to try and emulate what we're doing right. So anyway, that was my little rant on our school. So
Troy, thank you for saying that, because I can tell you when I first met you and you said you're building this school out in Surrey and told me the size and everything, I said to myself, really? But after I spent time with you and then getting the details and everything, it's an incredible vision, incredible. And anybody who watches this podcast, trust me, I've done my homework with Troy and JP too. This is a facility that if you have the money, invest in it. And you want to invest in the Catholic faith and the education of your kids, JP2 is an incredible opportunity for you as a donor or other donors to get rewards. I certainly have.
Wow. Well, thank you for saying that. And of course, Andy, thank you for your support. And it hasn't just been financial support. I tell you what, it's been, you've shown great leadership. You've been a visionary to help out with our school, with our capital campaign, and you've given great advice to me. You've given great advice. You spent so much time with Silveria Roselli, who's now our appointed president of the foundation, and doing a great job. You'll never meet somebody that not only has the strongest work ethic, but somebody who's also deep in her faith. And I've witnessed a reversion in Silveria to her faith as well. And she's there championing, that same vision that we have for the school to make sure we keep our Catholic school Catholic, and to make sure that that's always in the forefront.
While we're on the same subject, let me tell you, this is for anybody that's struggling, in their late, let's say in their senior years, and you're looking for a career and everything.
Yeah.
I can tell you, I found the career. My career is giving while living, and it occupies a lot of my time. I have a full-time admin person that I keep busy, that is basically doing all the accounting work, the documentation, etc. And I do all the thinking and the strategy and the coaching and everything. But I couldn't think of a better career. I could have been golfing or out traveling or doing other things. But giving back provides such a beautiful, beautiful enrichment in one's thinking and one's destiny. So it really is, and I highly recommend, and anybody who wants to talk to me about the opportunity of how to do this, you do it by, first of all, grabbing onto the idea and then implementing something, and I'd talk to anybody about that.
Yeah. Can I expand on that for a second?
Yes.
Because I'm a philanthropist in a different way. well, not a different way. I mean, I give as much as I can give. Of all of the different businesses and things like that I've been involved with over the years, you have different successes and you have disappointments and successes and you have all these different things and you're always working, to try and better yourself and to better your company and organizations. The most fulfilling thing that I've ever done in my life outside of having, getting married and having kids, the most fulfilling thing is championing this new Catholic high school, which has been a lot of work, and I'm not saying that to look for, a pat on the back or anything like that. It's been a ton of work over 12 years, and it is by far the most fulfilling thing. When I go into the new campus now, actually it even started at our first day in our temporary campus, but when I walk around and I see the kids in uniform in our school, whether they're in class or whether they're out on the field utilizing it, or whether they're in the gym, at a volleyball practice or during gym class or what have you, or whether they're in the dining hall, mingling in lunch, over lunch or during recess or what have you. My heart is full when I see that. And there is nothing more, fulfilling. And it's like seeing your kids succeed and, your heart is full with that. But when I walk through the school right now, it's the most satisfying thing. And all I've done is give from my heart with it, of my time, which is, as you said, it's your most valuable asset. Once it's gone, it's gone. You can't get it back again. My resources, and I'm not saying this once again for a pat on the back. I'm just saying because it is the most fulfilling thing in my life. And I've got to experience a lot of things. I've got to travel a lot, all over the world. I've gotten to experience great business success, and I've had I'm blessed to have my wife and my family, my 2 girls, and without them the school wouldn't have happened at all without that support. And they also saw that vision and participated with it and encouraged it. But it's the ultimate fulfillment. Yeah. So I get it when you say you've got a new job now, you've got a new career, and it's a career in philanthropy. And you're not just writing checks. Yeah. You're involved. Mm-hmm. You're giving us guidance. Yeah. You're giving, Silveria, our whole team guidance. And I know, because I know some of the other organizations that you're involved with that you've been philanthropic with as well, I see the guidance that you're giving them. And it's not just checks. Yeah. It's also, it's like, look, if we're gonna do this, how are you gonna make this right? How are you gonna make this succeed? So I tip my hat to you again, and I also share successes in a different way. I share
absolutely, and I can see that. And again, the message is I do come across people that say, "Hey, well, what are you doing? Just sitting around in retirement?" And I said, "No, I just found the perfect career. It couldn't be better. I mean, really, when you give and then receive. I mean, it's just." In grade 1, they tell you it's better to give than receive. Yeah. It just takes us a little time to figure
that out. Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of that, the other thing that I'd like to just mention is that what I had was I'm also involved. My most recent, it's probably been my biggest single charitable is I'm heavily involved in the Our Lady of the Mountain Whistler Church, a Catholic church that had basically a rather small facility that was looking always to expand and whatever. It took them 25 years. And so we've created a vision there. We've been at it for 4 years. And I'm proud to say that through a lot of effort and a wonderful, very, very capable architect, Oberti, and his son Oberto and Tommaso have created a beautiful, beautiful tribute to donors, and our donors have been not the parish could only support it right from the start, and I was the lead donor, as well as probably most of a large percentage of the fundraising, and I had to basically focus on the people that can give, and that outside the parish because we couldn't accomplish it. 80% of the money came from outside. And Father Andrew's cooperation and leadership, we were able to raise, right now at $6.8 million. And we're going to open the church. We're hoping, as I speak, that it'll be Christmas where we'll be able to at least say Mass and finish it off. So it's been a proud journey, one of, just tremendous gratification. And one of the things what we did do there is we were also very thankful to all our donors. And there's a message here I would pass along to the charities that what I have found that there's very few of you that or I would consider that are in the sort of the top bracket in gratitude and giving, and including the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely essential, and there's a wonderful opportunity for these charities to give more, not give more in gratitude. And that's writing thank yous, calling, personal calls, all those things. There's an endless supply of different ideas of how you can express gratitude. And you've done it today to me and during other times. And I think that it is so important, and I highly encourage any of the charities out there to do it. And we're living proof of being able to do that. Without all that gratitude ongoing, I don't think we'd have made it.
Yeah.
And the church is a fantastic tribute with all these big wooden beams, et cetera, et cetera. It'll be a place for people that not only find powder will find God.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Well, and my hat's off to you for what you've done there for Our Lady of the Mountain. I've seen I haven't been there physically. I've seen the drawings and I've seen the construction updates that are going on. It's going to be a beautiful church. Yeah. Congratulations. And it's very Whistler-esque. It fits right in.
That's a nice word.
Yes. So it's what you would expect when you go to Whistler, like all the post and beam inside. It's absolutely stunning. So, but to champion that, you didn't just write a check. I keep saying that. You led that campaign to raise all of that extra money. You reached outside of your local church. You had to, because the local church, the local parish doesn't have the means to do it, nor do the parishioners have the means to do it. So you told me about a story where you were out walking the golf course one morning and you ran into a guy, he wasn't even Catholic. Can you tell us that story?
Oh, yeah. It was actually in the evening, and it was winter, and I walked out there, and there's a fellow walks out, and he looks like, a guy probably I would size him up. He's from the Middle East and everything like this, and well-dressed and everything, and we hit it off, and I didn't know what, et cetera. So I did this a couple times. He was a weekend warrior there for the weekend. So he came another weekend, and I planned to be out there at the same time. I had a goal in mind, okay? And the third weekend, finally he says, well, what do you do? And I says, Andy, go for it. And so I said, well, I'm a Catholic. And he looked at me, and he said, I'm Catholic. Well, my mouth just dropped. And I couldn't believe that, he's a Catholic, and long story, he gave $100,000 to the church, and so. And
he's not even from Whistler.
No, he had a home in Whistler, but you're right. It we had stories like that. We had 16 people that gave over $100,000, and again, all of you that gave to the church, I thank you very much, and it really is well worthwhile. And I would say that. It wasn't all, it's a journey. And one of the big journeys, and I could pass this along, is that lots of times when I would be, let's say it didn't work out like I wanted it to, not optimized. So what happened was that I'd go to see Father Andrew, and he says, oh, well, we'll just get another miracle, pray more.
Yeah.
And, after he said this a few times, and I'm putting all this effort into it, et cetera, including prayer.
Yeah.
I was really troubled with maybe the overemphasis on, another miracle, pray from God.
Faith,
And I found in the Bible a scripture that I think really applies to any endeavor like this. Pray like everything comes from God, act like it comes from you. Pray like everything comes from God. Act like it depends on you. And it's a beautiful two-headed coin that both have to get together, and that's what I practice. Another story I will tell you is the Holy Spirit. I became closer to the Holy Spirit through Father Andrew. Father Andrew told me a lot about the Holy Spirit, and I said he definitely influenced me. So I thought, well, the Holy Spirit. So I started praying to the Holy Spirit. And then I got into a session where at nighttime, I think this happened maybe 1 or 2 years ago, I'd be wrestled with all these problems. I've got this problem, what am I going to do, etc.
Yeah.
And finally, I got to the point, I said, you know what, I'm just going to throw those problems away, put them on the table here, and when I wake up in the morning, Holy Spirit, I want some answers.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, it started with 1, then 2, and then 3. I knew that I wasn't good enough for that answer that I received in the morning. It was beyond what I would normally approach. So the Holy Spirit is definitely there and was definitely there for us to be able to accomplish what we did.
Yeah. Well, there's, I just finished doing the surrender novena, which is a challenging thing to do. It's basically, you're putting everything on the table, saying, Jesus, I surrender to you, take care of everything. And that's a tough one when especially if you're a control freak. That's a tough one to do however, it is so liberating when you do that. And like you just said, your troubles, all of a sudden, it's just like, okay, I can't do this on my own. So here you go. Lead me where you need me, and I'm putting my head down. I'm just going to keep working, but my trust is in you. I'm not going to sit here and get anxiety over it because that's not going to help anything. I'm not going to worry myself to death, literally, because that's not going to help anything. I'm just going to keep going. Try and do it with a smile on my face and encourage others. And that in itself is a journey. Just to go through that and be reminded every day that it's not up to you. It's never been up to you.
And Troy, the other thing I'd like to layer on top is that, God, I don't know how he does it, but he gives gifts to everybody in some form or other.
Yeah.
And then he has given me certain gifts that I don't know where they came from or why. My mother was very caring, DNA, I don't know. But he's given me these gifts, and he expects me to use them.
Yeah.
He didn't give them to me, just like he does all sorts of gifts, whether it's in music, art, business, etc. He expects us to use these things. Yeah. And so therefore, it's just beautiful. You pray to God that, thank you for everything. And also at the same time, he says, God, I'm going to live up to your expectations to the best of my ability with your help. That's
those talents. Yeah. You can't just take your talents and bury them, right? That's biblical as well. You got to utilize them. You got to get out there and maximize them. Wow. Andy, do you have any other words of encouragement or wisdom for philanthropists or to-be philanthropists out there right now that might be watching this? Any words of encouragement, any words of wisdom that you can say, hey, look, philanthropy is this?
I think I've said it so many times in this interview. I think that it's a perfect career. I mean, golf isn't a perfect career, etc. I use that somewhat facetiously, but basically, I encourage everybody to get the same fulfillment and enrichment that I have had. I mean, it's just been absolutely wonderful. Get involved, just not write the check.
Yeah.
Okay? Meet the people, see the opportunity, and think about sharing. And the more involvement you get, the more benefits you're going to get. It's pretty simple on that basis. So I see too many people trying to figure out what they want to do with their time. Well, it doesn't necessarily just have to be philanthropy. It could be in time or whatever.
Yeah, that's a form of
there's all sorts of ways to be able to do that.
Yeah. So for those that maybe aren't as blessed financially, You just mentioned that, it might be just giving of your time, which is huge. I'm a donor to the school, but I've also donated what I believe to be my most valuable asset is sacrifice of time.
Absolutely.
A lot of time. So I would encourage those that if you don't have the finances, or even if your finances is in a scale is, my dad always said, give till it hurts. He always said, then you've because it's the most fulfilling and satisfying thing when okay, it's comfortable for me to give this much money, or it's comfortable for me to give this much time. But then ask yourself to give a little more on top of that. And that's when it really becomes fulfilling, because you can see it making so much of a difference. Our board members for the last, we had building committees, we had ad hoc committees in the beginning before we had formal boards, before we were actually became limited organizations and societies. All these people gave their time and money, but their time, their efforts, their knowledge, hugely fulfilling. Huge.
I've got an example. One of those is that, I don't know if you ever heard of the East End Boys and Jimmy Crescendo.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Jimmy and I became friends, and one of the charities I support, and I've been to his school, talked to his kids and everything. And as soon as I was building the church, Jimmy says, I'm going to help you out. And so the kids, I said, fine. And so unbeknownst to me what they were going to do, but they went and raised some money. They raised $1,000. And then Jimmy said, I'd like to come over and see you. And so he came over to me one Saturday morning, and he had 6 kids with him. Knocked at my gate, and I said, wow. These kids, they were 16 to 18 years old.
Yeah.
And he basically gives these kids hope and a home and some education to be able to, get their life together again. And they're not necessarily from, poor areas, or just average type of people.
Yeah. So
these kids stand there, and I'm, what? 60. So they come in and write it with coffee and some water. We spent 2 hours talking, and all those kids they commented on their life, and everything, and that they were part of this. And it had a profound effect on me. I thought, oh my gosh, I felt like, God, I got a $100,000 check, okay?
Yeah.
These kids, because I know that we're putting them on the right track, getting them into the place that one day they'll be whatever they do. But whatever you do is very important. As a matter of fact, for one of the church activities, the groundbreaking ceremony, Jimmy again shows up with 6 of his kids there to witness what was happening with the church. Yeah. Does it get any better?
No. And think of the lessons that these kids are learning with that too.
Yeah.
In philanthropy. Yeah. Like no matter what you have, if you're giving some of it away, and it teaches you too that there's more than enough, and that others, no matter how little you have, somebody else has less. And you can help. And 2 of our major, which we're so proud of, 2 of our major fundraisers that we do every year within the school through the foundation. Number 1, we have the Royals Ball. Number 2, we have the Royals Golf Tournament. We've called it the Alumni Golf Tournament. We don't have a ton of alumni yet, but those 2 fundraisers are for our bursary program. And they are for families that need financial aid. We're very proud of that. We're always wanting to give more back than what we receive. So we've got a great financial bursary program that's true to our heart too, and true to the mission of St. John Paul II Academy as well. Andy, any other words of wisdom that you want to share before we wrap it up?
I would like to thank you again for allowing me to have a platform here, a podium, whatever it is, to talk about the things. I am reaching out to all these people about the wonderful opportunities that we have here. I hope that what I've commented on is some of the take-homes when I talk about business, when I talked about philanthropy, whether it's giving or whether it's as a fundraiser, et cetera, all of this has manifested in some way to make you look at, the audience, look at opportunities for you, because I can tell you it's huge and it's so rewarding.
It's so rewarding. That is the biggest emphasis, is how rewarding it is, being able to give back. Andy, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us here today. Thank you for all of your well, first of all, for your kind financial support, but even more so, all of your words of wisdom that you're constantly sharing with us. I know you're in contact with Silveria almost every day, helping coach her along, which is just awesome. She's always elated to hear from you.
Absolutely.
As am I, of course. And we hope to visit you in Whistler soon. We want to be there for the opening of the church as well.
The opening will, the official opening will probably be in May type thing, because we're by the time we get everything going. But
yes, exactly. Well, if there's mass there at Christmas already, I might try and sneak out and get to that before the grand opening.
Okay.
Even. Yeah, for sure.
Good.
So thank you very much, and so appreciated.
Yeah, Matt.
All right. And I encourage everybody, if you like what you see here, please do like and subscribe, hit your notification bell, all that fun stuff. And comments are great. That really, really helps us when to get the word out, is when you comment, because it boosts us up with the algorithms. And let us know if you have any ideas of anybody else that you'd like to see on Catholic Education Matters. That would be absolutely huge. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to Catholic Education Matters. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the podcast on your favorite listening platform, rate it, and also leave a review. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends and family to help spread the word about the impact of Catholic education. Be sure to listen again.